Is there legitimately a program in college football who is recruiting the quarterback position better than the Tennessee Volunteers? A couple of years ago, they had a near 5-star by the name of Harrison Bailey, then they had Tayvven Jackson, then they had Nico Iamaleava, now they have Jake Merklinger as a freshman. For 2025, they grabbed a 5-star in George McIntyre, and then a couple of days ago, they landed the #1 overall player in the class of 2026 by the name of Faizon Brandon. Tennessee has been going absolutely crazy when it comes to the quarterback position, and today I want to talk about it. We're going to go through all the different big-time quarterbacks they've landed over the last couple of years, talk about who they are, and how this keeps happening. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Tennessee's crazy quarterback recruiting. So over the last 2 years, Tennessee's had 2 different quarterbacks drafted, as Joe Milton was taken by the Patriots and Hendon Hooker was taken by the Detroit Lions. It is often forgotten though that Josh Huepel didn't actually recruit either of those guys. They were both transfers, and the obvious development and progression of each one of those players makes it pretty clear that Tennessee is a place for quarterback development, and you have a high percentage chance of being a top draft pick if you can start a full season there. In both 2022 and 2023, Hooker and Milton looked like stars, and the next guy is Nico. He was a top 5 player in the class of 2023, and last year he spent time redshirting. He ended up backing up Joe Milton and showed flash when he came off the bench, and got his first career start in their bowl game against Iowa. In that game, he went absolutely berserk with 4 rushing touchdowns and showed that he is the guy of the future, and that huge NIL deal they signed with him was absolutely worth it. Nico is just the second big-time recruit that Josh Huepel had landed, as a year earlier, Tayvven Jackson was a huge blue-chip quarterback that had come to Rocky Top. He was considered a top 15 quarterback in the class of 2022, and after redshirting 1 year, he would transfer to Indiana, where he was the starter the first part of last season. Unfortunately, they lost him, but it doesn't matter, because Josh Huepel has found a big-time quarterback each and every class. On3 said, quote, "When it comes to pure high school quarterback recruiting, there isn't a program doing it better over these last 4 cycles in Tennessee. I think it's clear that landing an elite quarterback target is a priority under Coach Huepel, and I think he's done an exceptional job of stacking the room with blue chip talent each and every year." Okay, so we already talked about Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker, Tayvven Jackson, and Nico, but who are the other guys that you may not know about who are in the cards to be the future Tennessee quarterback? Well, the first is Jake Merklinger. Coming out of Georgia, he grew up in football territory, and his brother actually played for Western Illinois at the FCS level. He ended up becoming a 4-year starter at Calvary Day School in Savannah, Georgia, and in his 3 years as a starting quarterback, he threw for 6,607 yards with 75 touchdowns and only 22 picks. He also ran for over 700 yards and 20 scores on the ground. He ended up finishing his senior campaign with 3,000 yards and 38 touchdown passes and just 2 interceptions. He's also a force on the ground. Calvary Day head coach Mark Stroud said, quote, "Jake has the natural athleticism, but he also have all the intangibles that make for a great player and person." Merklinger decided to go to Tennessee over 27 offers, including Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan State. He's a prototype that you look for in a pro-style quarterback, as he has a strong arm and a high-level athleticism. It's easy to see why rivals had him ranked as the 7th best quarterback in the country and amongst the top 100 players in the class of 2024. In 2024 right now, he's one of 2 scholarship quarterbacks for the Vols, as he is the backup to Nico. But whether Merklinger is the backup or the 3rd stringer, he has put himself in position to get on the field for this season. Their OC said, quote, "He has set himself up to challenge for playing time, which is hard to do in any system in any league for a freshman quarterback." Jake Merklinger is one of the top quarterback recruits in the class of 2024, and seemingly has exactly what Josh Huepel is looking for in a quarterback. Dare I say it, Merklinger kind of reminds me of Drew Lock a little bit, as obviously Huepel coached up Lock while he was the OC at Mizzou, and these are the kind of quarterbacks that Tennessee likes to have. But while Merklinger is the only one of these 3 guys who's actually signed and on campus, the next 2 dudes they have coming in could be even better, and are going to have significantly more hype. Up next, we have to talk about George McIntyre. He's even more impressive than both Tayvven Jackson and Jake Merklinger, as George McIntyre at one point was listed as a top 10 recruit and the #2 quarterback in the country. I'm not sure why he has fallen off a little bit, but George McIntyre was seen as the premier name in the class of 2025 at one point. His uncle is Mike McIntyre, who, in case you don't remember him, is currently the head coach at Florida International and was formerly the coach at Colorado. George has pretty much everything going for him. He stands at 6'6", is 185 pounds, and has both basketball athleticism and elite level arm talent. He He currently has basketball offers from both Arizona State and Florida International, and George McIntyre is the definition of one of those big-time athletes that takes over and dominates a field or a court. In 2023 at Brentwood, he ended up dominating on both the hardwood and on the gridiron, as he added 20 offers since the month of January and is becoming one of the top names in high school recruiting overall. This past season, he completed 285 passes for 3,229 yards and also had 25 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, the team would struggle running the ball, and they ended up finishing 2-10 under Jacob Gill, who would eventually decide to resign after 1 year as the head coach. When it came time to his recruitment, both Alabama and Tennessee seemed to be the top two teams, and Tennessee used an opportunity to strike after Alabama was in coaching limbo as Nick Saban stepped down and they were waiting to hire their new guy. The Vols coaching staff was in consistent communication with McIntyre throughout the recruiting cycle and have been able to see him play a ton with how close Knoxville and the city of Nashville are. As I said, he's a two-sport athlete as he has offers in both basketball and football, but it has quickly become apparent that football is his main sport. So far, he has more than 35 football offers, and his top 10 included Auburn, FIU, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Oregon, UCLA, and Tennessee. He ended up committing to play for Josh Huepel and the Volunteers a couple months ago, and this was a huge get. At the time, he was listed as the number 20 overall prospect in the class, and he had fallen to quarterback rank number 4. He's also the top-ranked player from the state of Tennessee, and Huepel is big on keeping in-state talent home. Right now, according to 24/7 Sports, he is Tennessee's 14th highest ranked commitment in program history and the second highest ranked quarterback behind Nico. One scout said, quote, "He ends up sliding back from number 10 to number 30, and this is a guy that we really liked on the field despite his team only winning 2 games last season. The biggest knock on George McIntyre seems to be that he plays on a bad team, but at 6'6" with extreme athleticism and a great arm, that is setting him on a great trajectory, and he has football in his blood, as obviously McIntyre is his uncle. So he's been around the sport for a long time and has extreme knowledge, and sometimes the quarterback position is about your family. Call me crazy, but that is a real thing." At this point, unless Josh Huepel leaves Tennessee, I think McIntyre will end up in Rocky Top, and this is a humongous get for Coach Huepel, and someone that Vols fans should be looking forward to. Finally, we can't talk about Josh Huepel's recruiting at the quarterback position without talking about Faizon Brandon. Just a couple days ago, he decided to commit to play for Tennessee, and this is a humongous get. He was born and raised in the city of Greensboro, as his mom works in finance and his dad played college basketball at Virginia. Like many kids, he ended up becoming a UNC fan when he grew up and fell in love with Cam Newton and the Panthers. Now, apparently his favorite NFL quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, and when he eventually got to high school, he became a star right away. People knew that Faizon was a special talent going into his 9th grade year, but he's only gotten better and better, and he ended up just turning 16, and the other quarterbacks in his class are getting closer to being 18. A 24/7 Sports scout said, quote, "This kid is young and his best football is still ahead of him. Brandon had as good of a sophomore season as anyone in America, and that's why he comes in as the number 1 recruit in the initial top 247 rankings. Tennessee football made Faizon a long priority before he was ranked number 1, and he's liked the Vols since he visited them for the first time a year ago. It turned out to be a perfect match that helped him make his college decision, as he has decided to commit before the junior year of high school. He admitted he had been leaning toward Tennessee since he made his first trip to Knoxville in 2023, and the Vols were the first team to offer him an SEC scholarship. He has since received offers from at least 25 programs. After as a sophomore, he passed for 3,026 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 3 picks while at Grimsley High School. He's also ran for 528 yards and 9 scores on the ground. Brandon chose Tennessee over LSU, Bama, and NC State, revealing his choice during a ceremony at his high school that was streamed live on 24/7 Sports. He has now become Tennessee's first commitment in the 2026 class, and he's made this decision just 3 weeks before the first game of his junior campaign, and this continues the trend of highly ranked quarterbacks going to Tennessee. Why did he go to the Vols? He said he believes the Vols know how to develop him into a great player, and that, quote, "being coached by a head coach that played quarterback at a high level is a big thing for me. I really like their offense, and I've learned some of the things that they've done, and it seems like I could catch on to it pretty easy, and I've started learning what they do." So yeah, Brandon is the number 1 overall recruit in the class of 2026, and this is a humongous get for Coach Huepel. Tennessee has been recruiting ridiculously at the quarterback position as they landed Tayvven Jackson, a 4-star recruit. They landed Nico, the number 2 quarterback in his class. They landed Merklinger, a top 15 quarterback in his class. George McIntyre, a top 8 quarterback in the class, and then Brandon, the number 1 quarterback in his class. Huepel is on a ridiculous streak, and honestly, if I was getting recruited to be a quarterback, Tennessee would be one of 5 schools that would get an official visit from me and might be near the top just because of their awesome atmosphere and what Coach Huepel has been able to do at that spot. But what do you guys think? If you're a Tennessee fan, what do you think of this awesome recruiting? What do you think of each one of these players? And how is Huepel going to sort out all these different options? Be sure to let me know down below. Let me know another topic I can cover in my next video. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about the rise of Jalen Wright. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.